But yeah, so why, carrying on from this, why do you think it is so difficult to change our results?
Because most people don't have an awareness of how the mind works and how the mind operates. Like you gave a classic example, and I know I did that for many years, and I know you did too, Emma, where we go to the courses, we study the books. In our industry, in the personal development industry, we call it shelf out. So a lot of people read the books, they gather the knowledge, goes onto the shelf, but nothing changes. They might get jazzed for a while, excited by the book. But the thing is, buy their fruits, you'll know them. So it's not, do you know it? It's, are you doing it? Are you doing it? Like, rather take a paragraph of a book that's really impactful and read it over and over and over, because one of the ways that you move an idea from your conscious thinking mind into the subjective mind, which controls the behavior, is through constant spaced repetition, right? And you read it over and over until you find yourself doing it. And once you're doing it, then you move on to another idea or something else. Just in regards to, people become, another way of looking at it, Emma, people become top heavy. So they gather all of this knowledge in the conscious mind, but it never moves into the subconscious, where the paradigm is that's controlling 96 to 98% of what this body is doing. They gather all of this knowledge because school taught us how to gather valuable knowledge. However, school never taught us how to alter old paradigms, old mental programs. Therefore, as we get older, we gain more knowledge, inferior results, and this causes confusion and frustration. So as we get older, we know more, especially if you're learning all the time, but we seem to do less. Now, until we are able to close this gap between what we know on a conscious level and what we're actually doing, I promise you there's going to be massive frustration. And this right here, this idea around this stick person, this concept or this image that we call the stick person, and this gap between what you know and what you do, this is the big reason why you'll find somebody with degrees coming off their resume, off their CV, and yet they can't get work. And then for some equally strange reason, like you said, you see people who don't have a good formal education and getting great results. That's because the habitual patterns or what they do on a daily basis, Emma, is different, or it's getting them the results they want, whether it's how to prospect, their sales ability, the interpersonal skills, whatever it is, but they're obviously doing something that's getting them the results they want. So we've got to understand how to take an idea from the conscious mind and move it into the subconscious, not just read it, not just know it, not just learn it, but to actually internalize it so that the results on the outside, our behavior changes and the results change. Because the results tells you what you're thinking at the deep level, what you're thinking at the subconscious level. Did I answer your question?
Definitely. I was just thinking through that, and a lot of this is kind of looking at others and seeing where they're at. And in fact, it comes across a really interesting, on Sunday where they're a family lunch, and there's a couple there. And they looked quite old, but they were also quite sprightly looking. And there was a lot of, age ranges from a 3-month-old. Anyway, it transpires that I think one of them was 92 or something, and the other was 90, couple. I'm looking at them thinking, wow, they look really incredible. There's other 80-year-olds sat there who don't look as healthy and fit as these two. And the lady sat there at one point chatting to another lady who was sort of 10 years younger. And the younger lady was just talking a lot about how terrible life was and how, it was a tough challenge for them. Anyway, I was watching this lady And she just never let anything kind of go in. She just sort of went, oh yes, and then just changed it to a positive. She wasn't at all being rude. There was nothing, but she just wouldn't take in anything. Now, I don't think it was necessarily conscious, but it was really beautiful to see. And it really made me think about myself and what I do, and that is definitely sort of, for me, is Bob would always talk about knowing who you are. And again, I didn't get that initially, Lee. But now, especially watching somebody like that lady, it's like, okay, I'm seeing other people, I'm seeing what they do. And when I see successful people, in fact, I was thinking about somebody who used to sell books door to door. And this girl was really successful. And we see it, don't we? And we see successful people in property, and it's like, I want to bottle that up. What is it that they're doing that's so successful? And most of them are what we call unconscious competence, aren't they? They don't really know what it is they're doing. And I quite recently, I thought back about this girl was called Tessa. What was she doing? What was so successful about what she was doing? And when I look back on it, she was just doing the things that other people weren't doing. They weren't particularly difficult, and we were told we needed to get up at this time, we needed to knock on this many doors, we needed to say this script. And I remember following her and looking at her really deeply, like really looking at her. What is she doing that I'm not doing? She wasn't particularly happy or sad. She wasn't particularly anything. She just did it and had massive results. And when I look back, I just didn't do those basics. And so, yeah, so that kind of understanding who I am, that has been a really kind of interesting thing. So how important is it to kind of know who you are?
Everything. Because we're talking about your results, right? If you want to improve your business results, your income, if you'd like to improve your health, your daily habits, if you want to improve your relationships, you have to know who you are. Emma, you heard Bob say before, he used to say often that success is 5% strategy, 95% mindset. Now, if you don't know you're a spiritual being, you've been gifted with an intellect, and through the proper use, the effective use of your intellect, you can tap into this power. You can shift what's in your subconscious paradigm, but you can also connect with this higher power. And not only does your behavior change, but what you attract into experience also changes. Now, if you don't understand these different parts of your personality, who you are, and how to bring about change, we're pretty much stuck. And that's where I was for quite a big portion of my life. I was stuck. I didn't know how to, we all know how to get healthier. We all know how to hit the gym a couple of times a week and, run and eat healthily. And we all know, if I treat people a specific way, I'm going to get favorable results. But our behaviors and what we actually do is contrary to that. We know how to do it. But this paradigm, this program in your subconscious that's been handed to us genetically and environmentally in our little life, it's running the show. So if we don't know who we are and what our makeup is, we're pretty much stuck. We have to know that first.
And how do you think, for somebody new coming into this, and maybe they've got some, they started out afresh in property, and they're getting this knowledge, and a big part of the property community is, it's a wonderful place because we can openly talk about mindset, which I think in most business worlds or in anywhere, you it's like sort of frowned upon, a bit free-fee, a bit odd. But when somebody says, you really need to know who you are, I mean, do I not know who I am? I mean, what does that mean? What when somebody's being faced with that, what advice would you give them on how to know yourself? I mean, surely we do know ourselves.
Most people think they're their name. Do people really know who they are? People are operating with a limited perception of who and what they are. So how we elevate that, Emma, is through study. It's through proper mentorship and guidance, where we actually expand our awareness and where we actually understand who and what we really are. Because, I mean, there's something so powerful about everybody listening to this call right now, something so powerful about you, Emma, and about me that's beyond comprehension. And that's the truth, right? We're the offspring of a deathless soul. There's something so powerful about you. But this paradigm, this mental program in the subconscious is stopping this perfection that's already within you from coming to the surface. There's only two sources of reference we can go to understand who you are. One is theology, and the other is science. And both of those sources tell us that you've got infinite potential. But it's the paradigm, the programming, this virus code, so to speak, in the subconscious that's stopping this perfection from bubbling to the surface, from coming to the surface. We have to get the right mentorship. We have to get the correct understanding. And we are definitely not our name. People, I didn't know. I didn't honestly, and I think, you know, you also, your experience was the same. I didn't know who I was. I thought I knew who I was, but I didn't know who I was. I mean, if somebody, I'll give you an example, simple example that anybody listening to us can understand. If you know you shouldn't be eating that piece of cake, you don't want the results it's going to give you on a diet, or you're trying to live a healthier lifestyle, but you go ahead and you eat the cake anyway. Somebody asks you, you know, why did you eat the cake? I thought you're on a diet. And you say, no, I am. So they say, why did you do that? I don't know. So here we are, and this experience, you know, people at the start of every year, they want to get healthier, they want to get fitter, they, you know, get into the gym. You know, it lasts for a couple of weeks. We call them New Year's resolutions, right? For those of us that have been spent years in the gym, we see every year, January, the first 3-4 weeks, and then the gym empties out again. And that's because people don't understand who they are. If you understand that there's something inside of you, there's this mental program that's running the show, and if you fighting against it consciously and you're trying to shift behavior, you're fighting a losing battle once you understand who you really are and how to move that idea from your conscious mind to the subconscious to change behavior effortlessly. Until you understand that, people are literally fighting, and we're fighting against ourselves. And this applies to all areas of our lives, from selling to prospecting to contacting investors to, whatever it is that you're doing in your daily activity. A lot of people, or some people, can do things by force, but it's far better to do it effortlessly, to move it into your subconscious so that it aligns with your behavior. And that's all an automatic process. And we have to understand who we are. We have to if we're going to change our results and we're going to change the fruit that we're getting on the outside, we have to understand ourselves. We have to understand what's happening inside before the outside changes.
Wow.